There he is.
Oh, there he is.
Got a minute.
Hey, Joe. So I call to order the City of Lafayette Council meeting for August 14th of 2025. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Kennedy, take the roll call.
Yes, sure.
Counselor Paulson,
Present.
Counselor Burrows,
Here.
Counselor Carswell,
Present.
Counselor Gogan.
Here.
Counselor Kett here, Counselor Mackey,
Present.
and Mayor Malcolm is absent.
So we'll start with the citizen input on non-agenda items. Anybody here who would like to talk?
You're just here to talk for the items itself.
Are there any additions or deletions that anybody would like to add to the agenda tonight?
Not from staff, Madam President, thank you.
I would like to change from the consent agenda, letter C to an action letter E.
Anybody have any issue with that? And then if we could welcome Judge Blake for an update.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's weird to be on this side of the bench than that side of the bench, so forgive me if I'm a little bit.
It's weird for us.
Discombobulated.
Weird for us too.
Okay. Well, good evening again. My name is Larry Blake. I'm your local judge. I've been here a couple of years and wanted to thank the opportunity to come in and talk to you and kind of explain what we're doing. And if you have any questions, I want to make sure I answer any questions. Before I get off too far, I want to make sure you understand that I really appreciate the staff that I'm working with here. They've been really accommodating and great to work with. Robert and the deputy particularly, we tell stories about old things, but he's young enough, he doesn't have to believe everything I say, so that's all right. I invite you to come to watch court if you ever get the opportunity. We always have it the same time, once a month. You get to see how I interact with the citizens who come before me, and I think we have one of the few jobs that actually people come and watch us work when we're doing what we're doing here today. So we deal with traffic and code violations. So I only deal with traffic. The worst thing that can happen to you is you get a fine. So we get a lot of speeding tickets, driving while suspended, driving uninsured, cell phone citations. Those are the types of tickets that I normally see. And for the most part, I think probably 95% of the people that come before us are usually the first timers. And if they're the first timers, I try to, as much as possible, keep it off the record because it's not the citation or the cost of the citation that's the problem. It's how it affects your insurance rates later on. Particularly with driving uninsured, there's a little known aspect of driving uninsured. If you get convicted of driving uninsured in the state of Oregon, you then have to file an SR-22 for 3 years. And for people who are kind of living from paycheck to paycheck, that can mean $2,000 or $3,000 over the next 3 years. So I have a program that if they pay a fee and keep insurance for 12 months, I'll dismiss the citation so they don't have to file the SR-22. Likewise, if people come in with the DWS, driving while suspended, I'll give them an opportunity to set it over a couple, 2-3 months, get their license. And then if they get their license, my reward is to reduce it from a driving while suspended to a no operator's license. And it saves them a couple $100. So a lot of people I'm dealing with, particularly when it's a hard time economically, I always try to give them that opportunity. And then the other 5%, there's not a lot we can do with those people. They just get fined and their record starts increasing. So that's the traffic part of it. We deal with code cases, and I think you may have some issues regarding code cases coming up here tonight. A lot of those have to do with parking issues, junk, lawns being too long, etc. And again, I divide those up into 2 separate types of categories of people. 95% of them are what I call there, but for the grace of God, go I. A lot of elderly people, a lot of people having some health or mental health issues. And if you can give them some time to try to get some help and bring in some community members to help them out, they'll usually resolve the problem. And therefore, I usually find them, but then I suspend most of it. And then I put them on probation for a period of time. Just don't let this happen again in the future. And then we get the other 5% that no matter what I'm going to do, they're just going to keep doing this. And that's where you have to use the fines. And then at some point, if the city decides they can foreclose on the property or at least lien the property and then look at the possibility of foreclosing. So those are the 2 types of cases that I normally handle. I'd be open to any questions you have about my philosophy or how we're handling it. I've been here, like I say, a couple of years. I've enjoyed coming out here. And again, the main thing I like coming out here is because the staff has always been really friendly and easy to work with. So that makes my job easier. And besides, they're the ones who really do all the work. I just show up and smile. So we know who does the work around here. Okay. Any questions, comments?
I'm glad that 95% are first times and hopefully last times
Yes.
they get to meet you.
Yeah, and the one thing I do, especially with young kids, so I divide up the people who appear in front of me in kind of three categories: the young folks, the middle folks, and then the older folks. And so if they do take a class, I try to give them a class that's appropriate for them. So with young folks who are driving, and I was a terrible driver. When I first started out driving, I was the worst driver, which I think makes me a good judge, by the way. That's a whole other argument. But I couldn't get pulled. I got pulled over pulling into a town and got pulled over pulling out of the town. It was really a problem. And there's this class called Trauma Nurses Talk Tough. It's put on by Emmanuel Hospital. And it's a program of a bunch of nurses who got tired of kids crashing their cars and coming to their hospital. So they put on this really good program. I've been to it. I sent my 17-year-old to it. And what it does, they talk about the dangers and the issues about driving like they drive. And that's we're trying to slow people down. So that's a good course for young people. Middle-aged people, or middle people, I call them, we do another online course. And then with the older folks, my age, we do an AARP 55 live class, and it actually helps with their insurance. So we're trying to educate, we're trying to change behavior, and we're doing whatever works best for people. And I've been on the bench for next year will be my 30th year on the bench, and I've gotten kind of figured out, so I feel pretty comfortable where I am with that. The only last thing I would say is I know you had some parking issues coming up, and I asked the city manager to help me out with this. And again, I'm just going to tell you about it. It's not part of my job as your municipal court judge, but I wanted to alert you to it. There's a recent court case called State of Appeals or Court of Appeals, Gazette versus Portland and Whitfield. And I've left the copy with your city attorney, so you don't have to write anything down. You'll have a copy of it. But it's an interesting case and it presents some really unique problems that I don't know that all cities realize. And so I'm going to tell all the cities that I work for about this case. It involves a motorcyclist driving down a road in the city of Portland, and then another driver coming up to a stop sign. And in front of the stop sign was there a bunch of cars parked that kind of partially blocked the stop sign. And so what happened was this car went through the stop sign. The motorcyclist, to try to avoid that car, went onto oncoming lines and unfortunately was killed. So the estate of the motorcycle driver sued the driver of the vehicle who ran the stop sign, but also sued the city of Portland. And the city of Portland tried to get it dismissed by some legal maneuvering, but Court of Appeals found that no, the city is liable for that because they allowed those parked vehicles there to block the stop sign. So I don't know whether this is directly related to you folks and what you're dealing with today, but just know that normally the city has immunity. You don't get sued. But in that case, the Court of Appeals, and it could go up to the Supreme Court, but I don't know, found that the city was liable to the tune of several $1 million. So I'm just encouraging it if you ever think about these cases or how it might impact you, because parking issues are kind of usually pretty boring, but this can be a situation where it could cost the city money. And that's
Do
just
you know if the city of Portland was not enforcing a code?
Yeah, well, that was the issue, whether the city was doing anything about that. Because they had, and because there is a law that talks about 20 feet from a stop sign parking, blah, blah, blah. But if you have vehicles that are blocking it and you don't take action to do that, then maybe your cloak of immunity goes away.
Exactly.
So anyway, that's just a case I saw, and I've talked to all the cities about that. Does anybody have any other questions? Because I know you got other business here and I don't want to take too much of your time.
So
I have a
anything
quick
that the
question.
Sure.
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
Would you say your caseload is increasing or decreasing? Do you have a pretty steady amount? Are you always able to get to all the cases?
Good question. So I work for a bunch of cities in here, Carlton, Amity, Dayton, et cetera. And your court of those 5 cities that I work with in the area is the busiest city. And that has a lot to do with the gentleman to my right. And I think it's right now the numbers, when I show up for court, we'll have a full courtroom. So I'm happy with the numbers I'm getting, and I think what we're doing is appropriate. Some cities hand out a lot of, like Coburg, I don't know if you ever heard about Coburg years ago, got a really bad reputation because they kept annexing out to the freeway, and then they wrote all these tickets, et cetera. I don't think you guys have that reputation because the tickets I'm getting are at least 15 miles an hour and above over the speed limit. and they're for serious violations like a cell phone, because what they found out with cell phones, that if you're using your cell phone or texting with, particularly texting, it's like you're driving under the influence of intoxicants. So they've increased the violation. And so that on the third cell phone ticket within 10 years, you can actually go to jail for up to 6 months. So I think that's important, and the officers do a good job. So to answer your question, I think the numbers are great, and they're the most of all the small towns I'm working in the valley.
Thank you.
I apologize for having my back to you. I noticed that. I think, Mary, you had a question?
So in terms of the council, is there anything that we can do to be helping with the code enforcement issues going on in this town in terms of you or with the deputy?
Yeah, there's a couple things that, and again, this is in reference to, I work in a lot of different cities, and a lot of different cities have different code issues. It kind of, like in Manzanita, where I first started out 30 years ago, they have a lot of short-term rental issues down there. So it's each city has its individual issues. I was in Detroit the other day, and they have some issues regarding golf carts. So it's every city is their issue. But my recommendation for, if you want to try to enforce city laws, code enforcement laws, it's always important that you document. For me, now that we have cell phones and cameras, it's always easy to document, so that if you want to find somebody in violation, you can do a 1-day violation, which is fine, then whatever the fine is. But if you really see it as a really ongoing problem, then you need to document and then make the citation for a number of days. And once you get that, then I tend to get more attention from people, because some people say, well, it's $250 or $500, it's just the cost of doing business. But if they have 3 months of it at $500 a day, then they might change their behavior, because that actually is a fair amount of money. But you got to document everything along the way to show that that's a continuing violation.
And I think right now, currently hours is just for the instance, not for the day. So God forbid there's somebody in violation for parking with a trailer.
Right.
They get the ticket from Robert or from the deputy.
Right.
And then they can just leave it there until they go to court technically.
Right.
Unless we do a tow or something, but the daily maximum is something.
Right, so if you really want to change behavior, it's been my experience that you have to start citing on a continuing so the first day you see it up until the day of court, then you can have all those days in between be a separate violation. And then that gives me more ability to motivate people to change behavior. Okay, it's a good question. Any other questions at all? I'm not turning my back.
Off topic, but were you a litigator before you were on the bench?
Pardon, yeah. I was in the DA's office for a number of years in Clackamas County, then I opened my own practice, and that's what I did for a while. Any other questions? All right, listening to an attorney is probably the worst thing you can do, so I appreciate you putting up with me. I'm gonna.
Ouch.
Ouch.
Oh, yeah, we agree with
Yeah,
that.
yeah. All right, thank you, folks. Have a good night.
Judge, have a great night.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks.
Okay, so on to the consent agenda, and we're just gonna be focusing on A and B. We have a motion to approve
I will move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
specifically A and B.
Well, C is no longer on the
Okay.
consent agenda, correct? We moved it, so.
Yep, if you'd like to call roll.
Counselor Burrows,
Aye.
Counselor Carswell,
Aye.
Counselor Gilgan,
Aye.
Counselor Kit, Counselor Mackey,
Aye.
Counselor Paulson.
I don't think I vote.
Okay. You're okay.
I don't vote, right?
Not when you were in the seat of the.
I didn't think.
video.
So that passes. And now we're on to 8A. Second reading. Okay, so we're on the second reading. The purpose of this is to conduct the second reading of ordinance 651, amending the Lafayette Comprehensive Plan. Does the council object to reading the ordinance by title? I'm gonna take that as a no. This is ordinance 651, amending the Lafayette Comprehensive Plan Community Resources Chapter Recreation Section 2013 First Development Plan. Are there any staff updates on this?
No, no, Madam President, there was just some grammatical errors that we revised in the document. But other than that, nothing outside, nothing major.
Are there any further comments from the council? Or any questions or comments from the audience? Okay, do I have a motion?
I move to adopt ordinance number 651 and an ordinance amending Lafayette Comprehensive Plan by repealing the 2013 Parks Development Plan and adopting the 2025 Lafayette Parks Development Plan and authorize the council president to sign.
Any deliberations? Or second?
I'll second.
Kenny, would you like to call the roll?
Counselor Mackey,
Aye.
Counselor Carswell,
Aye.
Counselor Kent. Aye. Counselor Gogan,
Nay.
Counselor Burrows.
Aye.
Okay, passes. Okay, and then I'm gonna move on to the next one. So the purpose of this is to conduct the second reading of ordinance 652, amending the Lafayette zoning and development ordinances to delete subsection 2.20606L. Does council object to reading this ordinance by title? That is a no. This is ordinance 652, an ordinance amending the Lafayette zoning and development ordinance to delete subsections 2.206.06L regarding additional signs. Is there any update from the staff?
No.
Okay, does council have any comments or questions? Does the audience have any questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
All motion, I move to adopt ordinance number 652, an ordinance amending the Lafayette zoning and development code to delete subsection 2.26.06L and authorize the council president to sign.
I will second that.
Any deliberations? Okay, Nancy, would you like to take?
Counselor Kent. Aye. Counselor Gogan.
Aye.
Counselor Burrows,
Aye.
Counselor Carswell,
Aye.
Counselor Mackey,
Aye.
Okay, and passes. I just need a moment to get to this part. Now we're gonna move on to the action item C, RV permit extension for 99 7th Street. Go ahead and get staff report on that.
Thank you, Madam President. So in front of you was a request from Ryan Bringell for an extension for the RV occupancy permit for 999 7th Street extension. They're looking to do the extension until the end of the year. So I put it until December 31st, 2025. And according to the city code, I'm allowed to give up to 1 month of a permit. And I normally do that in 2-week intervals, but in this case, I did it for the full month since they were planning to come to the council anyway to not have to worry about doing an extra extension permit. And in front of you today, there is a staff recommendation to deny this extension based on the information that was provided in the packet. There's been some issues on the property with the RV going back till about June of 2022 with the Yamhill County Sheriff and a code enforcement officer. And based on some of those issues that we're still seeing that have been there for at least for 3 years, staff is suggesting denial based on that. But at the end of the day, this is all up to council. If you can deny, you can do a shorter term. You can accept it completely.
Is Ryan in the audience?
Yes.
Yes.
I can't really see him, so can you hear me, Ryan?
Yes.
So once you accept that you need to move your trailers, how long do you think it would take you to move them?
Well, that depends. This gentleman had mentioned, I'm trying to get to a point where, to the end of the year. So that my daughter, who is in the middle of a bunch of, stuff in order to purchase a home. So, she's definitely turned her life around. I'm hoping that, she can actually talk to the council here and kind of explain the whole timeline and everything. We're actually close to the end of the proverbial tunnel. So, again, she has a lot more information on that. You know, as far as like, if it's denied tonight, then, my understanding is as long as they're not in the RV, not living in the RV, then is there a problem with having the RV on the property? I mean,
Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding was it's the occupancy of the,
Correct,
so it's not the actual trailer being stored at the property.
correct. That's the
Okay.
occupancy.
okay, so
So
yeah,
living inside of the trailer, right?
yes, currently they are, my daughter's family is living inside the trailer, yes. So, would it be okay for my daughter to kind of explain what she's been going through and the whole process she's pretty close to the end of, and being able to buy a home? It's just, we just need a few more months.
So yeah, we can do about, I think, limit's 3 minutes.
Well, this isn't public forum, so as much time as you would like to dialogue or have them.
Yeah, so she'd like a couple minutes to speak to council, she can.
Hey, hi everyone. Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Elizabeth Brand. I'm the occupant of the camper in question. In order to avoid rambulitis, I have prepared a very small statement that I'll read for you guys today. According to apartments.com, the average price of rent in McMinnville, Oregon is $1,668 for a 3-bedroom apartment. I can imagine to rent a brick and mortar home, it is significantly more expensive. However, I've never tried to rent a brick and mortar home. About 2 years ago, through the state of Oregon, I was granted a housing voucher, which would enable me to rent at a subsidized rate. But due to an at the time limited employment history and credit that was ruined from years of irresponsible financial choices, my voucher expired before I had the opportunity to utilize its potential. Fast forward to today, I am incredibly fortunate to be just months away from closing on a home for my family. And hopefully one that they will come to know as their childhood home. The United States Department of Agriculture offers a very special mortgage in rural areas across America. It's called the 502 Direct. This mortgage is issued directly by the US government, and it is only made available to low-income households in technically rural areas. Our sweet slice of home, Yamhill County, is indeed rural. I live in a fifth wheel currently. It is hooked up to utilities, and with my fiance and my 2 young children, we wake up every morning at 7 a.m. I put on the kids' socks and shoes and scoot them down the metal stairs of our camper and usher them off to daycare. By this time, their dad is already at work for his 12-hour shift at the protein bar manufacturing plant in McMinnville. And I'm getting ready to start my 10-hour day as the general manager of the Burger King at the south end of McMinnville. I am not complaining about our circumstances. In fact, on the contrary, living in this fifth wheel, supported by the grace of God and my loving parents, we have managed to eliminate all of our debts, settle old collections, as well as to save up the money we need to close on the home we plan to purchase. My latest correspondence with the USDA was that our file was with the loan approval officer, who could only issue us the green light to begin making offers on homes after October 1st, when the fiscal year restarts and the funding from the USDA program is replenished. It is our fullest intention to be moved out of this camper and into our first home by the end of 2025. And we are humbly asking for special permission to inhabit the camper, aforementioned, until the end of the year, although we hope it will be sooner. Thank you.
Questions?
Historically, we remain exceptions.
So we've had a similar case for the council, and it involved young children, or I think just one young child. It's a few years ago now, I'm thinking back to it. And what we did was during the summer, they actually would go camp places. One of the places down here at the park. The council, we did not authorize it during like the summer and warm months. But there was at least a 3 or 4 month that we allowed during the winter months. And then that family actually ended up coming back to us and asking us to pull the permit and end it because of issues that were going on in the family at the time. But that's the only history I've been involved in on this.
Do you have documentation verifying that you're,
Yes.
okay, great.
And so why is it that you and your family can't stay inside your father's home?
Because they have just a 3-bedroom house. It's my mom, my dad, and they actually, they adopted my first child. When I spent a couple years battling addiction and homelessness. And during that time, they adopted my daughter that they now raise. So although they have a wonderful, beautiful home, I also now have 2 other children of my own and a fiance. And we could, if we absolutely had to, we could make their dining room into a makeshift room that we all could inhabit. And we would be willing to do that to see this through to the end. We are just hoping that we can avoid that because it would be very cramped.
It would be, it's just really hard because I feel for you. And you've changed your life and you're making great choices, and I think that's wonderful. But the hard part we run into is if we make exceptions, then we run into other issues. The kind of the situation we were in a few years ago, like that was hard for me. Like I had to stand by, like, these are our rules and we have to do this. And a kid was camping at a park. It broke my heart. But if we always make exceptions, like that becomes a problem. And so kind of the thing with the 30 days is like to give some time to get things figured out. And I know it can be uncomfortable inside of a house being crammed, but I would really recommend that that's what you guys consider doing. Because I don't know personally if the council can get behind this. We're talking 6 months that you could be looking at for a house situation. And I'm really familiar with the USDA program, and it can take a little while with closing and everything. And so the problem we're gonna run into is we're gonna have other people in similar situations coming in here and asking for their families to be able to do this. And it is a lot. And again, I sympathize with your situation. I'm not trying to undermine it by any means. Thank you.
If, I'm just gonna jump for Elizabeth, right?
Yes.
You should be super proud of yourself. It's
Thank
an
you.
incredible story. You should be super proud of yourself. The thing that I don't think anybody here could discredit what you've accomplished. The thing that I'm running into is under the rules that we have to play by. There are certain conditions for us to grant this, and one is that there has to be an emergency. And I'm not sure this constitutes an emergency under the rules that we have to play by here. So if my vote is not in your favor, I don't want it to be taken as any judgment. I think you're absolutely incredible and what you've accomplished. You should be very proud of.
Brandon, would it be permissible to allow like a week for them to get the situation inside the house set up? For them to be able to make that transition so they're not hit with fines or anything?
Yeah, I would just suggest if any motion is made to deny it, that motion to deny effective the 21st.
I mean, that would be, I mean, I can't vote tonight, obviously, but that would be my recommendation. I don't want to put this family in a situation where they're going home tonight to try to figure this out. You know, even if it was through. Sorry, I'm terrible.
So we've only
I
ever
would
had one case
recommend-
like this before?
Yeah, and the family, the reason they couldn't be in the home was, I think, due to some health stuff with some family, and it was very small. Their living situation, and we didn't find that that was an emergency. We only found that it was an emergency during the winter months because of the child. And it was also, it was a much shorter duration. just because they were more than happy to go out and camp for a good chunk of the year. But
And they didn't have
we could
anything.
look at like
set up.
maybe Monday, August 25th, that would allow for 2 full weekends, about a week to get the house in order. To then hopefully avoid fines but we gotta back up the code enforcements on this issue. That's my thought. And I assume you work weekends?
Right now I'm working 6 days a week.
Okay, yeah, so that's why I was thinking, give you guys 2 solid weekends to get everything transitioned. What are your guys' thoughts on something like that?
I'm fine with her having some extended time, and I really hesitate to vote against her because I sympathize with her. However, if we don't like the rules, we change them, and that's.
The problem is like,
Well, yeah.
we can't
change this rule right now.
We can't pick and choose, and if we open the door, it's gonna be problematic throughout the city.
Which is why I just struggle very hard voting against you in this. But I do believe that if we have laws on the books and we don't like them, we actively try to change them. Unfortunately, it is our job to enforce the laws on the books, and that's not anything personal against
The
you or
thing is,
your
I don't think
family.
it's realistic to change the codes on this.
Oh, I know.
There's a lot of issues that come with this, but we can all sympathize and try to get her in a situation where she's got some time. And you guys have had some time. I mean, because I think this started back in May. Yeah, so,
What day is your day off?
It changes. Right now, my day off is Saturday, but I'm actually working Saturday as well. Some weeks I don't have a day off.
well, that's why I was recommending 2 full weekends. You know, as opposed to just this weekend. I can't imagine it's gonna take too much work to get a dining room set up, but, you know, I mean, you got some kiddos and.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'm going to move to deny the request for an additional temporary occupancy permit under LMC 6.605 subsection 5. And direct staff effective September 1st to proceed with the appropriate next steps to ensure compliance with LMC 6.605.
I'll second that.
Kennedy, would you like to call roll?
Counselor Mackey,
Aye.
Counselor Gilligan.
Aye.
Counselor Burrows,
Aye.
Counselor Carswell.
Aye.
Counselor Kidd. Aye.
With the modified. Congratulations on your promotion at work. You're welcome. Now we're on to 8D. So this is to approve of change orders for Bridge Street improvements for a project totaling $98,095 from the street SDC funds. So Brandon, if you want to give we have the packet in front of us regarding the change order.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the design, some of the actual invoices came in when I was on vacation, so I have provided them in front of you today. The first one, change order 1, is just discussing the 7th Street crosswalk, which we talked about a few months ago. We had the ADA compliance issue that was brought to our attention. So this is officially that change order there, and that would be $24,275. The next one, change order number 2, is going to be some ADA compliance upgrades along Bridge and 4th and Bridge and 12th Street intersections, including complete removal and replacement As you can see there on the designs for Schedule 3, you'll see some moving the ramp south, extend the wheel stops to the ramp, and then replace ramps to meet the standards. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's gonna go from 4 to 5 feet, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. I think there were some alignment issues.
Correct.
A lot of these change orders as well, that was not foreseen at the time of bid.
Yes, which would be change order 3, which is where they saw some of the concrete elevation issues on the transitions. And that one would be adding additional curb ramps and removing 124 square feet of concrete to adjust the ramp panel size. The cost impact of that one is $39,000, $39,720, which includes the $6,000 deduction. And so the original contract called for $283,019. With this total change order, if approved for $98,095, it would still bring us significantly less than what we expected to pay for this project. I think we had close to $550,000 estimated. The revised contract total will be $381,000. The reason why staff is suggesting to take this out of the street SDC fund, since it is an improvement, we can pay this out of the SDC fund. And I didn't want to take it out of street dollars because next month, we have Gordon and the engineering team coming to you for the next street project or the street assessment list for you all to discuss. And so we would hate to take money from that street project to fund this project. So that's why we're suggesting taking out of the SDCs, which we have $983,500 on. So if all is approved, this would start additional work on Monday as they're already out here deploying to start prep work.
And so Monday, traffic's probably gonna get pretty bad.
Not this Monday. It'll be do the intersection work and the 7th Street extension crosswalk work. The major Bridge Street work should be starting here at the end of August, first week of September, which will then have more notifications coming out in the preceding week, because
Do we know how long they're anticipating that to last?
from start to finish, probably about a month.
Oh, yeah, so
Yeah.
into the school year.
Yes, but a lot of the main work on Bridge, correct me if I'm wrong, will take about a week. The big chunk about a week,
Okay.
10 days, which is where they'll have the one-way traffic. The auxiliary work, the intersections, the sidewalks, all that's gonna be prepped here before that work.
And do we know if that crazy week is gonna fall before school starts?
It'll probably be right around the first week of school. Yes. And unfortunately, so there's OSHA requirements for public works and construction workers. And due to some of the recent heat waves, we've been unable to complete some of the projects on time.
Oh, I know.
All because it's been pushing other projects back.
90-degree heat wave.
Yeah, so unfortunately, other projects they were doing in Yamhill got pushed back. I think they were even doing some of the stuff that was on Dunaway for Yamhill. So they're in the area. They just were unable to start this project as we had planned to because of, I think we had like 8 or 9 days in a row of over 90-degree weather. And that causes logistical issues with when you do pavements and stuff like that.
Okay. All right, well, still under what we originally planned for. So, do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve change orders number 1, 2, and 3 to the Bridge Street Improvement Project contract with Hut Construction, increasing the total contract amount to $381,114, and authorize the city administrator to execute the agreement.
I'll second that.
Kennedy, if you'd like to follow up.
Counselor Gilligan,
Aye.
Counselor Burrows,
Aye.
Counselor Carswell.
Aye.
Counselor Mackey,
Aye.
Counselor Kidd.
Okay, passes. Now we're on to action item 8E. Grant support for 2025 to 2027. I'm gonna let Counselor Burrows take the lead on that since you requested for this to be moved to.
Okay. It's a couple quick, easy things here. It's, the title, is addressed as, DLCD housing capacity in the agenda. And at the title, it's DCLD. Then the request for council action is DCLD. Then in the background is DLCD. And also in the background, body is DLCD. I think they need to be all, I'm sure it's,
Department of Land and Conservation Development.
DLCD, because I Googled them and they mean different things. Also, so when you're using those type of acronyms like that, I think it's an acronym, right?
Yeah.
The first time you use it, define it for us guys that don't understand all the lingo and jingle, that would be great.
I'm so sorry about that, and I've been good about that in the past, because you mentioned that in the past, and I don't know why. I think I was in vacation mode, so I apologize for that.
Okay.
No excuse.
GLDD. Whatever that means. Have a good time.
But while we're talking about it, this kind of just supports a TSP. Right now, the COG kind of help assisted with the drafting of the grant. So we can try to get those dollars. And then depending on the planning situation, our in-kind match would be the city planner time. I know we've been talking about annexation and UGB and housing development, and now's a crucial time as we're growing and we're getting the TSP. I think that the Department of Land and Conservation Development would see both working coincidentally together, and I think that would set us up for success with the grant. So.
Well, I agree. Just we need to be consistent. Like I said, help me out. I'm just some guy trying to read all the letters.
And so with that, with the noted changes to make it consistent, do I have a motion to approve that item?
I move to approve the grant support for 2025 to 27 housing capacity analysis with the approved changes.
Kennedy, to take it.
Counselor Burrows,
Aye.
Counselor Carswell.
Aye.
Counselor Gilden.
Aye.
Counselor Kett. Counselor Mackey.
Aye.
Passes. Now we're on to discussion items, starting with the COG services.
It's over. We're not.
Did you want me to extend that for you?
That work.
Sure, it could be higher. Good evening, everyone. My name is McCray Carmichael. I'm the Community and Economic Development Director over at the COG. Sorry, this is the first time I've been here at Lafayette to see you here. But we have a lot of members that we serve. Brandon and I, we're talking about me coming and visiting with you tonight to talk about our planning services, our recent rate increases, and also to talk about the strategic planning fees that went on from back in April. So as I understand it, Jim Jacks is currently your planner. I have 5 planners in my department. 4 of my planners actually have a Yamhill City. Liam Bean works in Sheridan. Jim Jacks does Lafayette. He did do Sheridan before, and he still is like, goes in and still does some support because he was there. Jim has been with the COG for 16 years. I have Kurt Fisher, who is the planner over in Dayton, and I have Scott White, who runs planning services for Carlton. So we have a lot of touch points throughout Yamhill County, and as I've understood it, you all I don't want to speak for you. What has your experience been with your planner so far, Jim Jacks?
Mine's minimum.
Yours is minimum, okay?
Like he's the.
You can just.
I like. I was on the planning commission before I was on the council, so I've worked with Jim for.
Yeah. A long time.
Almost a decade.
Yeah,
Probably.
a long time. Knowledgeable.
Long-time servicer.
Just clicked. That wow.
All sides of it.
No, I like Jim. I think there are times where he kind of over-explains some things, but of course he doesn't know what the background and experience level of the folks he's talking to always is. So.
Does anyone else have experience?
I find his knowledge and his able to answer questions real quick, as you can tell. I ask questions,
Sure.
so answering questions and make his answers very clear and to intimate detail sometimes. And anybody that knows Jim, and that's not a bad thing, not a bad thing. I'm
Yeah.
not saying anything bad, but.
Just
So,
business to get done.
yes,
At times though, he is long-winded, he has a lot, he is, you know, I mean, he has been doing planning for 45 years. He is
long
like
time. That's,
an icon of Oregon land use planning. He's a gem, so, but you can share a lot. Do anyone else have thoughts or opinions?
Not on this.
Yeah. So I guess I'm here to find out if you'd like to continue to have Jim as your planner. We can look at moving another planner if you'd prefer. I've heard that in our conversations, Brandon has just shared, oh, I'm sorry, online too. Counselor Carswell, you're good. Just that he is long, and I know this, but you know, I enjoy what Jim shares, so I have other planners who can be more concise. You know, so if you wanted that, it's available. And I think all three of the people I mentioned have the, you know, they're with a touch point city, Sheridan, Carlton, and Dundee, right? You know, so they know Yamhill, they know small cities over here. So if you're interested and you want to direct Brandon, we can do that. Or if you'd like to keep with Jim, you can. I'd also offer one thing that I did talk with Brandon about is while you have had our planning services, you don't have to, you're not like wedded to us. As a member of the COG, planning is one of many services that we provide, but you don't have to use us as your planner, and you can go out and look for other planning resources. So I mean, we want to, and I think we know your history, but fresh eyes are okay. We had a member 2 years ago say, you know what, we just want to try something different. They have subsequently come back, but it's fine. So I want to share that too. Like, you are a member, we're here to serve you. And if you're not happy with our planning services, I encourage you to, you know, look for other planning services too.
So my issue wasn't with the planning services. My issues was with the rate increase.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a smack in our face.
Yeah, well, and that is the next item I wanted to.
Okay.
So if we want to roll into that. So, you know, so first of all, you all have heard our executive director has resigned, Scott Datsun. If you haven't, he has, his last day is tomorrow. He is going back to North Carolina as the city manager after being with us for 4 years. That said, you know, in this time last year, there were some indications that we needed to be increasing our rates significantly. You know, and we have a journey ahead at the COG in terms of some financial, our financial status, right? And what we've been charging. We haven't increased land use fees similar to what we see cities talking about with their SDCs, you know, and freezing rates. It was a choice, I would say, with Scott and with the previous executive director not to increase land use fees, that we were like $97 an hour, and that was not, and just we're staying there, and it was a choice. But we can't afford that rate, like it has to be higher. So the COG board last year decided they were going to do a 10% increase over the next 4 years. So and that was approved 24-25. So this one comes up in March. The COG board approved the 10% increase again for planning fees. So what would have been, you know, your new fee that came across to you was 121 that you were expecting, and that what you signed with the master service agreement back in May, maybe early June. Then we learned on the indirect rate that our indirect rate was going to be significantly lowered. And that caused Scott a lot of concern that we were starting at a zero fund balance and that we have no cash reserve. He brought that to the COG board and they said, we're going to do an immediate bump up on that 10% and do an additional 10% increase. And they did. The COG board voted on that in June. And at that time, they said, we want this effective July 1st. That said, COG, just to give you like, I don't know if you want to know how, the ins and outs of the COG right now. Scott put in his resignation about 5 days later, and then he went to Ireland for 2 weeks. So these details have not been implemented with staff, myself, the people who interface with you all, and our finance department retroactively understood that that bill was going to go back in June. So they sent out June bills with the increased rate of 20%. And I'm furious, to be honest with you. It's terrible business. It just is. And that's all I can really offer.
And can I give some hindsight? This came right after the budget year, after we signed the master services agreement.
I know.
That showed it.
This has happened.
Yeah.
And I don't blame you. I mean, this is on them. And it was very unprofessional.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's uncalled for. I mean, PG&E
Yes.
sent out notice. As mad as that made us all, like.
Yeah.
It
I
was
know.
just like, it was a shock, and they could have handled this better, and I understand that businesses can put themselves in that situation.
Sure.
And then they have to climb out of it, but like, we had a similar situation with water rates, and it was like, we were given advance notice, heads up, like,
Yeah.
this is going to come.
Yeah.
Don't be shocked, because we had no explanation. All of a sudden, this is in front of us. And we had like a week, upon seeing the agenda and preparing for this to then vote on, it was just like.
Yeah.
It was so uncalled for, and I mean, they have to understand, like.
They is me. I'm part of management.
No, I mean, but like you explained, you're not the business
Sure.
in the business department on this. Like,
Yeah.
you guys were blindsided by this, and so that's who I'm talking to, like, they need to do a better job.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna lose people over business like that.
Yeah, it's unacceptable. I came back when I learned, because I had been out of town during the board meeting, like I just didn't, sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you get a call where someone says, I just got a bill with a 20% increase. And I say, I'm sorry, what? What just happened? So unpacking it backwards, at a minimum, within this room, I'm not convinced that we needed to do a 20% increase, like in the style that we did. But the COG board we met on July 30th. And to both talk about what they want to do with interim and permanent for the executive director position, and some of the other financial things that have been coming to the top. And they said, no, we want to keep with this increase. So the rate is remaining effective.
And so next year, are they planning to do another 10% or 20%?
They didn't have any cash reserves.
But that's where I'm concerned, like.
Yes, cash reserves in the general fund.
And
Yeah.
partly for the city, like, we have to plan for that, like,
Yeah.
because is this gonna get out of our budget? Do we need to look elsewhere? Like.
Yeah.
There's just so much, so I highly recommend that they start communicating sooner.
Yes, I agree. I mean, and partially that's why I'm here tonight. I'm going to every single council to talk with you all, because again, I can't highlight enough. I've worked at the COG for 7 years. I was as a contract employee for a couple of years. In 2020, I came on and was running our Safe Routes to Schools program for Salem Kaiser. And then Renata Wakely, I don't know if you know her, she was in my position before. She left in July and I moved into this position. Prior to that, and in another part of my life, we've owned a business for 20 years. This is not how you do business. And even though we provide service, it's not how you do business. So, you don't know me well enough to know that past anything. I apologize. And I just think it's inappropriate and wrong. And I understand if you all make choices based on the act, like that's how you lose customers.
Well, I mean, realistically, if they come to the council next year with a 10% increase.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be council member on here voting against that
Mhm.
and voting to look services elsewhere, because that's just.
Yeah.
Especially after a 20% increase that just happened.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can figure it out.
It's unfortunate. Because I know that, the COG, just like the LOC, just like all these other committees that charge fees, they're made up of like this for the most part.
Yeah.
And no elected would do that in their city.
Yeah.
But I feel they would do it on a sister
Yeah.
group, and I felt that you're getting a lot of brunt of it, and obviously it's due, like you said, it's due, but I just worry that the people on the board wouldn't do that in their cities.
Yeah.
That drastically, why do it in the cog?
Yeah.
Because they're elected,
Yeah.
you know?
It's interesting that you say that, Brandon, because on the 30th, I was in the room, and I was asked, McCray, have you heard from cities about this? And I said, yes, I've heard from several cities and they're very upset with these increases. And to the board members in the room, there's no representation of cities that we provide this land use service to. So all the people who were in that room voting to keep the 20% increase don't use our service the way you do.
Yeah.
Right, so you're on point, right? We have dues, our membership fees, and that's where larger cities and the counties do contribute, and those are the people who are sitting in the room on that rate increase. So we have some work to do, there's no doubt about it, on how we're gonna write some ships, and there's definitely some questions, but our job with you is to provide good land use services, and other services if you need and want, So that leads into another point in the discussion, and that's the strategic planning that went on a few months ago. We initially had a bill, we had a contract or an approved work that was for like 6,400. We have not invoiced you all for that. I looked at what our service, our billable for my staff's time who have come here, and it's about $1,700. And just in an effort to show like good faith and intention, we are not going to be invoicing you for the work that we've performed back in April, and the fact that that contract was just terminated, that work, which is fine. I don't have concern or issue. I'm sorry that it didn't work, but I wanted to let you know that is where I do have control. I'm in charge of the invoicing and what would happen with that. And I've decided that we're not going to bill you. So.
I appreciate
Appreciate that,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we'll see how it pans out, in February, I shared with Brandon an estimate of, for all our cities, we did an estimate of the past 3 years for everyone so that you could be forecasting what a 10% increase would look like for what you paid over the average of the past 3 years. So, maybe what that bill would have been for last year, what you had budgeted will get absorbed, maybe we'll break even for you. Other thoughts or questions?
You want to share anything real quick on maybe like 2 minutes, 3 minutes on the regional water stuff that everything's going on, just so.
Yeah.
Councilor Carswell is secretary of the Regional Water Authority, but we never have any meetings. Because as a water authority,
Yeah.
but I think just talking about the regional plan, just so everybody's kind of up to date, coming from the grant writer and the grant administrator.
Yeah, so to your city manager, to Brandon's credit, he in December over the past year, I've been working with all the city managers to get like this master list of everyone's development codes updates, just kind of all your things, your TSP, your comp plan, stormwater plans, like where is it all? Because when we're going for different grants, often, particularly federal grants require this, but others do too. Like, do you have an updated plan? Are you at the most relevant place in the story? And in that, Brandon in December, when we were going over that list together, said, McCray, can you get involved with the water discussion in Edenhope? We need water and we need to be participating differently. And there's an opportunity in that regional water. Like, how aware are you of this? And I said, I'm not too aware. He said, well, the things are bubbling up. Meanwhile, McMinnville Water and Light was talking with Elmer's office. This is in like February about Elmer saying, I want to see more. We get individual asks from each city for $1 million or $2 million here. How do we get a comprehensive discussion happening? So I thought, well, what should we do next? And we decided to start hosting a conversation with first city managers to say, like, what's going on here? What's your resource? What's your plan? What's your current capacity with water? What are your barriers? What are you looking at? With the goal that we can be building out then to the next place, bringing in the mayors and then bringing in you all eventually into that conversation. Coincidentally, Business Oregon had infrastructure funds available. They had like 2.9. They were a funny batch of money. It was a funny batch of money, but essentially it was infrastructure planning money. It could be 100,000 for each city or 250 for comprehensive, more regional based plan. So it was like Yamhill County had the regional water plan from 2009, sorry. That hasn't been updated. So McMinnville Water and Light, like they know their capacity, but we don't have an idea of what it would cost and what an updated agreement would need to look like for more cities to be able to have access to water, you know. So we applied for business, or the COG applied for Business Oregon funds for the Yamhill Regional Water Plan update. We received 250,000. We're in the process of putting out an RFP, and you know, we'll be hiring an engineer to do an updated study. And so 3 weeks ago, Brandon and I were at a meeting that Elmer and Star hosted at McMinnville Water and for McMinnville Water and Light in McMinnville. And yeah, I mean, they want to see those numbers, you know, like in a comprehensive sort of way. So this isn't a commitment on anyone's part. It's just the starting point to understand what's the resource, what's it going to cost for both individual cities to do updates and then to potentially have connection. And then from there, go and see what it would look like. And then building on, help me with the title.
Yamhill Regional Water Authority.
It's not sticking yet. Yamhill Regional Water Authority, it should, but the structure of the Yamhill Regional Water Authority, you know, does everyone like how it works right now, or how does it need to be amended to have potentially more users be involved, or the current parties? So that's next. So we'll be putting out the RFP in about 2 weeks. I think I want to have it out for about 6 weeks because I just would like to see a bigger pool, you know, and alongside that right now, City of Yamhill they're using some of their ARPA money for a similar plan. They hired AKS to be doing a connection plan. They're looking at getting water from Hillsborough. So it's just ripe. You know, there's enough energy and momentum towards this idea of how do we get water at the most cost effective way to everyone. So.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, you are welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to come again. I'm sorry that this is the first time I'm meeting you in this way, but again, it's nice to see you. I appreciate your service and your work. And you know, if you'd like to think about, like I said, within the COG, a new planner, I'm happy to explore that, let you meet other planners. But I agree that Jim he's a wealth of knowledge. He is a wealth of knowledge, and he kind of can get long-winded. He can be long-winded sometimes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we're moving on to discussion item B, code enforcement and land use discussion. Would you like me to begin with mayor's statement, or would you like to
I can just kick it off to you if you want to kick it off to me.
kick it off to you?
Thank you, Madam President. So out of last month's council meeting, somebody mentioned at public forum, some discussions about parking, front yard parking of our RVs and trailers. And I think there was some discussion that was also going on at the dais, online, et cetera. And I know Council President Paulson asked to bring this back to discussion this month. So before we just talk about, or before you all discuss what you all need to discuss, I know there's a big narrative in the community that we're nothing but parking enforcement officers, but I've showed year to date, we have a dozen parking notices, and that doesn't mean all these even will end up with a ticket. They've kind of been put on hold since the last meeting, outside of a couple of, wrong way parkers or anything majorly egregious. We've kind of put some of that stuff on hold, including, Mr. Trent, I forgot his last name. I'm sorry? Boston with his issue that we had notice of violation on his property. So we've kind of kept everything at bay until the council discusses whether revisions to the policy, keep the policy as is, tweaks, et cetera. So just before you today, there's everything that's been going on with parking regarding that. And I'm here obviously to answer questions. Robert's here to answer questions. But outside of that, I'll defer to you all. I know Mayor Malcolm said has provided something to you all regarding some thoughts and opinions from her since she cannot be here today. But I'll kick it back off to you.
Is she wanting that read into the record?
I'm gonna ask that we just submit it into the record and it not be read. We can update the materials available online with it.
Correct. As long as everybody has got their copy and.
It's just in
Yeah.
the interest of time.
Correct.
I think everybody's had a chance to read it, I assume, yeah.
And so I followed through on doing my research on this situation. To me, it is a clear violation based on the property and there's no front yard. The front yard is taken up by all the different items on there. And so I don't think at this point, the code needs to be changed in respect to, I think it's just confusing because you're in one area and then you're bouncing over to another area. And so it gets really complex and confusing. But based on my research, I'm not in support of changing anything right now on this. I'm more in support of, we need to continue cleaning up the city and doing code enforcement. And I understand the frustrations that there's not been past enforcement historically. But for the last several years since having Robert, we have been improved in that and we're making improvements and we need to keep doing this. And this gentleman has had plenty of time to figure out what he needs to do with his items. And so there's no further steps that I'm recommending at this point anyways.
I did send an email to you all maybe about 3 weeks ago, just what the property looked like for context. So you have some type of visualization. Hopefully you all received that and were able to look that over. Or at least drive by the property to kind of see for context what this looks like, what the situation looks like, but just in the totality, hopefully driving around the city.
We didn't even see the house. I mean,
What's the current agreement?
I'm sorry?
What's the current agreement with them right now? Like, do we postpone?
I have not done anything because based on council dialogue last month, I just said, well, hang tight until council had a discussion on what to do.
yeah, 'cause when he first came, I thought it was a little bit hard to understand. And it was like, is there like an actual area that's designated for this? And, well, you can't have your entire front yard
No,
for this.
that was egregious.
That was over the top. There's a lot of safety concerns, like what happens if we have a flood? There's reasons we have these rules in place and they suck sometimes. I get it, but it is what it is. And so I just more or less was like, let me look into this and get an understanding, because if he put in the actual driveway area, it maybe would have made sense, but you can't turn your whole front yard into a driveway.
There's no gray area in that instance,
It was pretty much over the top. It looks like a business is being run out of there and here's my thought, if you buy those items, you might be an HOA that might have rules on it. The city has code rules on it. If you can't have it there because of whatever reason, obstruction of view or don't have the right driveway, you have to go store it somewhere. That buying that, that's not on the city. And so that's kind of where I'm just nothing has come to me where it's I think we need to dive into changing the codes on this issue, at least at this time.
Well, nothing's gonna be perfect. I think we all agree at this table. Nothing's ever gonna be perfect. But I know there's enough concern that I don't know if nothing needs to be done, but I don't know if there's anything that council, from a land use standpoint, wants the planning commission to look at. From a parking enforcement standpoint with the RVs and the trailers on the street on chapter 6.
Yeah.
I just don't know if there's anything, I know there's enough concern out there, I just don't know if there's anything that we can find to make this a perfect solution.
No, and maybe that's where the planning commission can talk and look at that and come to us with some ideas. Because I think that's where it's really confusing and like it took me a little bit to be jumping back and forth between these things and reading this. So, you know, maybe that's something in the planning commission. I'm just saying, I don't think at this time it makes sense to take away council time.
And I will say, I can't speak for what happened before I got here, but I know there was, and to this day, even me, I'll admit it, and you know, there's times where I look at the code and don't think about land use.
Yeah.
And this time I think about land use and not think about code. And unfortunately, I know I've talked with members of staff about making sure that we're looking at both, when we're looking at the totality of the property. So if there was an instance, God forbid, Robert or the code officer at the time gave something. At that time, they may have not been refined in land use policy or looking at the land use, just looking at code enforcement. But this discussion over the past month, I know Kennedy and Nicole are working on doing some updates to the website. I know Nicole and Kennedy put some FAQs on permitting. So we're trying to do better about educating and just transparency and a lot of that stuff. So we're never gonna be perfect at that. So I take full responsibility on that. Land use is very detailed.
Yeah.
The code is a little bit more easier to read.
Yeah.
So we'll continue working to address that. I know there's been some concerns about, you know, fencing a property or side yard, front yard, like I mentioned last month. We have to look at every property different when it comes to driveways or how to establish driveways. So if there's any questions about that, we can obviously answer them. And we're working on some information to put out on that. We have to find a good balance of how much to put out and what not to put out, because if you put out 80 different lot egresses and ingresses in town, that's gonna be very confusing, just like the LZDO. So we're just trying to find an even balance of that. Hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have something a little bit more concise. But I can task the planning commission with something, but I just don't know if there's something that the council is wanting at the end of this. Nothing's gonna be perfect, but is there something that you're seeing, even minute detail, that we can look at a little more aggressively with the planning commission to bring you back something?
Here's what I'm saying. Did tour of the town, and what I see is in areas that have HOAs, there aren't near as many infractions, if you will, as the older areas that do not have curbs, sidewalks, or anything else. It seems like there's more people parking alongside the garage or up on their side yard or wherever. There's nothing that stops them or they have to back over anything. It's, you know, some areas even made this a parking area. And I know the land use, there's a percentage, and I don't know how you would enforce, go to somebody's house and measure off the
Oh, the impervious cover
for the parking area. But I think that maybe for the planning commission, what do you have to do to make it a parking spot or a parking area, to make it legal? Wintertime is, you know, soggy, muddy, and, you know, there's a little apartment complex on Washington Street that a business truck backs into, and he backs into his own tire ruts every time, and that's where he parks. So whether he got down to some gravel or whatever, and he knows he's in his spot if he backs into his tire ruts, you know, and I don't know if that's what we want to have, but the society in general has changed a lot. People own boats, people's kids own cars. So you have mom, dad, brother, sister, each have a car. And especially in the curved areas, my neighborhood, it's wall-to-wall traffic. I mean, parking wars, if you will. So whoever gets there first is it. And then in the areas that do not have the curbs and sidewalks, you got up here on the side of the house or 3 across in your driveway. And I don't know whether we want to address that with codes or address it somehow. Somehow it has to be defined, I guess. We need to define parking areas on your lot and make it reasonable for people. And unfortunately, I agree completely. This is Mr. Boston. He bought too many things for his lot, his area. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to store them. There's businesses all over the place that you can address that problem. So the ball needs to be back in his court. At some, a reasonable point of time, you need to go find a place to store this stuff. If you bought it, it's not gonna work in making your front yard and it goes for, anybody that's doing used car lots, you don't want that across the front yard either. But I see a change in the needs or how people are using their lots in the older section of town, especially.
Yeah. So maybe just taking that feedback to the planning commission, if they can look at trying to define better driveway, something like that.
How many violations did we end up staying consistent with that across the board with the parking in the garage? I gave out 5 letters. And then we had the city council meetings, so I stopped. Cause I know we were gonna talk about it today. So at this point, I've stopped doing anything about that.
No, I think.
A lot
we
more
need
than
to-
5 I could point out.
Oh, yeah.
Maintaining consistency across it's probably the biggest thing.
Deputy Mead and I have noticed more people are parking in their yards now.
Oh, yeah.
So it must have gone out on social media and more people are doing it.
No, we
There's a
need
house
we
on our
need to
street
move
that
forward with
we
code
literally made a
enforcement.
And I just want
Yeah.
we'll probably have, I'm the bad guy, and I know I'm perfectly fine playing the bad
We are
guy.
too.
But I just wanna make sure, we're gonna have a lot of people here next month because we've been pausing this for a month now. And I think that there's narrative on social media, I don't see it. Hey, it's open season, the council told Brandon, let me do this or whatever, so we'll enforce and hopefully.
I did notice the uptick in it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think we need to know what makes a driveway a driveway.
And obviously, right, we want to enforce it against people parking, right? If someone like backs their truck up because they're unloading bark through the gate
No,
on their
no,
side
no.
yard or something, that's
but
fine,
you
right?
can't, you
Like,
can't do that
you
if you
can't-
block a stop sign.
right. I'm just saying, like, we're worried about yard parking, not people
Spend
getting into
everything.
their yard to unload stuff into the backyard for.
A couple of hundred runs, that's
Yeah.
understandable.
Again, so long as it's not blocking a stop sign.
Right, no, that's not, yeah.
Or a sidewalk.
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
crossing it.
I just don't want it to come across as we're just saying you can just go do this.
That needs to be enforced, yeah.
Okay. Is that good directive?
Yeah, anything, Councilor Carswell, from you?
Well, I really understand, that really egregious yard that we were looking at on that photo. I mean, that's crazy, right? And I think that's a good idea to get some clear guidance, like you were saying. I also think there's so much stuff to look at and find to clean up the town that's maybe something that's being overblown, just guessing. And that's all I really have to say about it. It'll be nice to see what guidance comes out.
Perfect. Well, let's move on.
And Brandon, thanks for supplying all the info on this too.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was very helpful.
Outside seating and right of way. Brandon, I'll let you.
All right, thank you, Madam President. So, about a month or so ago, the Vault Cider House owner reached out to myself and Mayor Malcolmson. The owner of the property, had come into City Hall asking why they couldn't place some seating out in the front, and that in the past that was able. After speaking with Council President Paulson, just from some historical data, back during the pandemic, I guess previous Governor Kate Brown had let some exemptions go for outside seating that were blanketing for the whole state. And the cities really were automatically preempted into that. So I think the owner maybe had assumed that preemption of all city laws for outside dining was reflective of being continued. I said that's not the case. Right now that there's not a way for somebody to operate dining in the right of way. After speaking with Jim Jackson, city planner, and talking to the city attorney, there are a few ways to go about this if the council so chooses to want to do that. Normally, right now, anytime somebody does work in the right of way, Greg approves a revocable permit, meaning all these conditions must be met, or we pull your right of way permit and you have to stop working. Something similar could be done like that, where the council, similar to like the alcohol privileges, there can be a resolution temporarily giving me authority to grant right of way permissions. And then we can do, it would be city code that we would work at, because that's particular to the right of way, but also some land use stuff that we can work on to where it would be approved as a part of commercial or residential commercial. There are ways to do it legally, but I mentioned to the owner that I have to go to council. I can't approve anything in the right of way outside of utility work being done. So if the council has a desire to temporarily allow it, I can bring something via resolution next month. If they are willing, if the council wants to look at it in totality, meaning anybody who operates a food or retail business can operate for outside dining in the right of way, I would be able to bring an ordinance to you to establish that authority via chapter 5, public protection. So this is just initial discussion. I know they said this was detrimental to, their business because of their space limitations, but I did say there's only so much I'm able to do based on the city code. So just want to see your appetite. Is this something that you'd entertain on a temporary side, on a full-time side? I just want to have that discussion to know if staff needs to continue working on this or not.
A couple of points and concerns. First one is, this is very similar to if you buy the toys and don't have a place to park them. If you rent the building that doesn't have the space, you rent the building or bought the building, whatever the case may be. Secondly, this is an interesting example for a first business for this to come about, because isn't this a business that's only open like 4 days a week?
I think they're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
3 days a week, yeah, I think it's Thursday,
Yeah.
Friday.
So Sunday through Wednesday, where are the tables and chairs gonna go?
It would obviously be inside. They'd have to be pulling them out.
Okay, because that's an important.
It would be temporary. It would be, I would assume it to, just from the staff point, it would be like, you go to like a little gelato or coffee shops, they have a little small table, and they would probably bring them in at the end of the night.
So similar to what they're doing on Third Street in McMinnville, bringing the stuff out for the evening, bringing it back in.
If the council were to move forward, that's how I would approach it.
Yeah.
It's temporary use, but you have a granted use from Greg, the public works manager. But if we need to use it, but
So long as their space falls within the rules and the safety and the restrictions, I think it's great. I think we should have outdoor seating. Try to get more people seeing businesses and bringing in business.
It's good community building too.
I thought OLCC is inside of 4 walls and they're serving alcohol in like a sidewalk space.
we would make sure as part of any next steps for moving in, as I'm working through a resolution and ordinances for the council, they would have to be working with OLCC. Because I would not be able to have Greg sign off on anything until myself or the staff here at City Hall have seen an updated OLCC, which then you would all have to pretty much sponsor that as well, because they're changing their license to interior to exterior
It
interior.
can't be that difficult. I mean, look at Carlton and Dundee.
My next question is that we are adjacent to an ODOT controlled street do we have to talk with ODOT at all?
It's our right of way.
Right, I just didn't know because if it's going, like, I'm envisioning a situation where because of where the sidewalk goes through, perhaps the tables and chairs are immediately adjacent to the street. Is that a problem?
I would talk with ODOT, but I wouldn't see an issue with that.
Okay.
If that was obviously behest of the council, just wanted me to move forward on this.
Can we put a time, June 1st to September 30th, something like that?
This is your city, so if you wanted to do something full-time, short-time, this is completely, you're all the policymakers. I can bring,
Sit outside in the rain.
Well, I want
We
to.
have a nice fall, so the probability that people would like to sit outside in the fall when it's 70 and the leaves are falling I would see it going past into well adopted.
Well, now you put it that way, yeah, it's been more appealing.
And I think it's good community building. People see people sitting outside and they're more interested in that business. I certainly think that has helped the businesses on Third Street. And I can see why the owner was mistaken with the COVID stuff that was happening. I get your point, Lee, but I do think that they probably were.
I think it's a great
Under the
idea.
impression.
I think we just need to have some we need to do
Yeah.
it the right way and make sure we have the proper guardrails in place. We don't want to just become a free for all. Anybody can
Well,
put
of
up
course.
some chairs on the sidewalk, right? So,
No, and that's
I think it's a good
what I'm saying, is
idea.
implementing a
Yeah.
process to be able to do so.
yeah.
Yes, and I did tell, I know the owner, I mentioned, this would probably be a process and it may be like a November, December, January type of thing in time for next season. Because we need a resolution, we need ordinances, we need to start looking at land use things, long-term land use things. I can approve things on the right-of-way side, but in terms of if we want to do this and allow this without us having, we can get something in the land use policy where if you're a commercially zoned property on along 99 or Third Street, that you're able to have X amount type of thing. So it'll be very detailed oriented, so I'll make sure if you all want to move forward on this, I'll make sure we'll lay some things out.
We want to just allow them temporarily through the remainder of summer and early fall to use that space and then write in all the stuff we need to.
Well,
I don't mind
first
that.
you have to
Just
make
put
sure
it on,
that
that's
it
all.
works for the right of way,
Yeah.
because there's gonna be spacing requirements and.
Yeah, and then Greg's gonna have to probably yell at me to make sure that I'm making sure certain parameters are correct.
Exactly.
So then him and his crew have the ability to get through if they need to, any utility work and whatnot, and if it needs to be, if there needs to be improvements, I know on Jefferson where this business is at, maybe there can be some type of improvements to make the right of way more appealing,
Yeah.
similar to what we do for a subdivision right of way improvement. So, but that's something that myself and staff can get with if you are seeing this, will you want to get this done?
And I want to be clear, the reason I don't want to just open it up temporarily right now is just because I hate for it to be, we just get to do this with no constraint, and then we add all these constraints and it.
I
I hope much of doing this again.
thought, like, we have this nice weather,
Oh,
it could be
no,
nice
I
for the
would-
business.
No, it'd be great to have a place to go eat outside. That's fantastic. I think it's
I don't think we
fantastic.
have any of that here.
I just want to do it correctly.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Well, let's move on. On to the solicitor policy.
Thank you, Madam President. Did you want to take the lead on this, Kennedy? Would you like me to?
Go for it.
Okay. Well, Kennedy did all the work on this, so I just want to make sure she gets that praise. So obviously, there were some issues with soliciting this past summer, still currently. And we're looking at ways to at least protect our residents a little more in terms of safety, security, a city stamp of approval. So right now, the current status, the current operations is somebody comes in for company ABC. They bring all of their people in that are working to fill something out, and then we give them all a badge. And then, those badges are pretty expensive, and then there's probably Kennedy, for every badge and every person is probably 5 to 10 minutes per person.
Yeah.
So, 5, 6, 7 people come in, that's an hour of our time where they're sitting there and the badges, I think you said were like $80, $90 for 12 of them or something. So we're giving them the badge, we're processing this, and there's no permit fee. In addition to that, I know I spoke with some people in the community who were concerned about people knocking on their door and being vetted. So we put some items together on some cities in the area. Then I was able to survey, hey, what do you do for your soliciting permits? Everybody seems to be pretty consistent on a fee.
Yeah.
A fee for a permit, so they have to come in, they're pretty much paying, just like anything else that we do. We're recouping the cost of providing that service. But then there's also some cities have an added layer of protection where they're doing background checks. I've been in cities before where we do background checks, but I know it can be done on the city, it can be done on the employer. I know that some of these employees that are working are day laborers or maybe weak contractors, so I don't know their hiring or onboarding process, but that's also an option as well. We have the code printed there, 7.320, which shows the registration statement. But I just kind of wanted to talk to you all about that. This is more of a staff initiated because of all the concerns we saw since I've been here. With all the complaints we've seen, I probably see more complaints about soliciting than anything else in the city. And they all happen within about a 3-month span. And it blows up, and I think the city probably needs some type of additional protections, at least on the the vetting, with the permit, because I think if you bring 8, 9 people in and they all have to pay, that may, okay, maybe let's not be so aggressive, or we can look at a company-wide policy where if one company comes in, they get up to 10 people for X amount of dollars. Just want to see the appetite for council, if this is something they want to do, and if they do, which way do they want to go or not want to go?
I think we need to go with they're being charged a permit and some sort of fee to account for staff time, because that's falling on the citizens ultimately.
And they're very aggressive.
I'm totally against background check. I think that's opening liability up to the city. I don't think we need any part of that. So I'm totally against it.
You mean on us doing it?
Yeah, because
specifically?
I think it opens up liability in the sense of like, oh, okay, well, you approved, and so then we decide, well, what passes a background check, what doesn't, what happens if something slips through the crack? Well, now is that the city's fault?
What if instead of the city doing a background check, we required that the company that's soliciting had done a background check?
I
upon
still think
hiring?
that's opening the city to like, and that's something where I think we need to get the city attorney involved. But I feel like that's just opening the door. I really think it's opening the door to liability. on the
Yeah, but I
city.
think the effort of performing a background check is less liability than saying we didn't even check.
But it's not on us to do that. So by them doing that, you're opening the door to it.
Trying to create like this discussion. No, I'm just joking.
I just wonder, is it common practice for a business that's sending out door-to-door salesmen to do about a background check on their door-to-door salesman? I wonder if that's common business practice.
Some of the companies, they actually subcontract out. So you'll have this company that's trying to sell their product.
Exactly.
Right.
They don't have people to do it, so they contract out with another company.
You see now,
That has a door-to-door salesman.
Yeah,
you're just opening.
and
the
I
door.
think that.
Or it just means that fewer people will get permits. Because their company didn't do background checks.
I don't think it's it's not the government's role to get involved in that.
I think the city's in favor of anything that deters anybody who's not vetted to that level in most cases. I mean, if you're going to be here, that you are vetted valid and you are selling a product that's actually worth not being harassed over.
You could also decide, hey, we don't want to keep them in town anymore, but that's something you can all decide to do if you want, but.
I mean, my concern with the solicitors is we did have someone approach us in our driveway and we tried every polite way to say, no, we're not interested, and they just kept getting closer, closer to my daughter and I, and that was really unnerving.
Yeah, I've seen
So
video sent to me from residents about that, which we've addressed with today actually, before the council meeting.
So then in situations like that should be something then where their permit is pulled.
Yeah.
And they can't come back. Like, that makes sense. That, I mean, how would you classify whether they're safe to be around a person? Like, okay, so if you punch somebody in the face and get hit with a DV, is that not as bad as attempting to kill somebody? Like, I just.
That's drastic.
But that's my point.
Where do we draw the line?
Where
That's
do you
right.
draw the line? And then it's on the city. So I don't think the city needs to get involved in that. You know, but there should be a process in place where they're paying for these permits and stuff and it's on file. And so then if there is that issue and you call the city, then that person can get the permit pulled and the company gets notified, hey, this person's now been trespassed from here, or whatever it is.
Remember, when they come in for permits, is there a person of authority with them? Or is it you just got a van full of 18-year-olds?
There's often not, or they don't notify us of a person of authority.
Right, okay, so
Can we
you may
include
not
that
even
in
see
permit
a
application?
person of authority
Like-
from these companies.
I think there's a spot for like manager or something on the application, right? Or
I can go look at the application.
Yeah, if not, we should add something like that.
I think there should be a fee. And I also think that we need to add in time restrictions for solicitation. The number of times that people have been walking around our neighborhood at like 8:30, 8:45 at night selling stuff. I don't know about y'all, but that's past my bedtime.
I just closed the door
How
on.
old are you?
It's-
I stay up till dark sometimes.
No, I'm older than
Oh,
I.
you mean 8:30?
Yeah, well, 8:30 this time. of year.
But yeah, that's the other thing is I do think time restrictions make sense also. So
This last group of solicitors were really aggressive. from all my neighbors and stuff, what they were saying, like, they just would not take no for an answer. Finally, my wife just closed the door on them, and then they went to our neighbor's house and said that my wife
Since you.
sent them over, right? Just super aggressive, greasy tactics, you know?
That's what I'm saying, like, if we're having those issues, like, okay, so then their permit gets pulled. You know, maybe that'll encourage them to behave themselves and be more respectful.
And I think the fact that we're one of, what looks like from the samples provided here, we're one of few towns that don't require a fee for a permit, might be why we get so many.
Yeah, I'm for the fee.
I've been made aware of that, like, you can be working for a company in like Vancouver, Portland. And these kids, like, for pest control companies,
Yes.
they drive around to different cities and they just try to sell everywhere. Like, they may not even be local, they'll tell you they're local, but they're usually not.
Yeah.
Yes, so there's no contact name, for the leader or the manager. And the time is from 9 AM to 9 PM. They're able to solicit.
And does it make sense to also limit the permit, like it's only in effect for 30, 60, or 90 days? So if there is,
Yeah, I think it's a yearly permit.
but it's yearly, it's significant, so I'm almost wondering if it's a shorter duration. One, are they gonna like?
You said 30 days? It's 30 days.
Oh, it's
30 days,
30,
yeah,
so
30
it's
days.
not a year?
Yeah, my bad. I thought it was my mistake.
But
I
then
don't
I
think
was
the
just
permit's full
thinking if
time.
there is issues on that person, you know, and their permit numbers reported or whatever.
Are they consecutive days?
Then it could be logged to not renew it. Yeah,
Most of the time when I get calls on solicitors, I don't start getting until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm only here for a couple hours and I get off work.
well, like I
There's
said,
nobody-
these kids, I found out, they're driving. There was one kid, he went all the way out to Jervis, Woodburn, and then ended up here.
Right, this is the third town they
And
hit.
so they stay out as long as they want, because as long as they close one deal somewhere,
They get paid for the day.
yeah.
Does the deputies can enforce this? as
Yes.
well, right? So like, would it be so bad to have PJ stop by and when he sees a solicitor and be like, hey, can I see a permit?
Well, going back to what Robert said, most of the contacts happen like after 2, so they're crazy busy. Hey, can you come over here? I'm like calling them and they're like, well, I'm on a call, and then I call.
Oh, right. No, I'm
Yeah,
just saying, like, if they're patrolling and they see a solicitor.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
around
they-
with
yeah.
Ridiculous hoverboards or whatever, can
Yeah.
they stop and
All
just,
the-
hey, can I see a permit?
Yeah, I think PJ got pretty aggressive this year with you, especially we had the issue that was thought to be one company, that was another company that lied that they were one company and made me look like a fool, but I digress.
So I think, okay, dude, my stance here, I just want to see how everybody else feels. I think we need to have a fee. I think we need, it's 9 to 9 right now. I think that needs to be earlier in the evening. I don't think people generally want people, especially like in the winter months, nobody wants people knocking on their door after.
It gets dark like 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And,
Put to bed.
so there's those pieces. My other thought, I'm just curious, and maybe financially this isn't feasible, but you know, there's a couple of main neighborhood sections. Like you start to get into neighborhood settings over by the elementary school, over by Morgan's Vineyard, the new development, and then also the housing neighborhood just towards 99 from the new, like, are there strategic spots that we could just put small signs that so they can notice to solicitors, you're required to have a permit and these are soliciting hours?
They don't even know how to read.
No.
I ask them all the time, like, read the sign, it says no solicitation.
I've got a big sign that don't.
Yeah, they don't know what solicitation
They
means.
don't, and that's what I'm saying, so I wouldn't.
But it would at least prevent the whole, oh, I didn't know I needed the permit, that they say every time.
Mysteriously, our no soliciting sign tips over when they knock on the door for some.
Oh.
You gotta screw it on.
You gotta use command strips or something.
I mean, we can put, the city of Lafayette, no soliciting without a permit, right on the bottom of the city. I just worry if we start putting, I mean, we could probably put them on like poles, but then those are like utility poles. If you put them in the right of way, they can get pulled.
They don't care. It's a waste of city
Yeah,
money.
I don't think that would slow them down a bit.
No, what slows them down is slamming the door in their face.
Oh, that question was more for Robert to see if you think that's.
I don't think it would,
Okay.
no.
Nowadays, with all the really aggressive sales tactics and direct calls or just telemarketing all the time, if I don't reach out, then I don't want your service. I'm pretty much like a no as soon as they get to my house, unfortunately.
You should put that sign up.
I never bought anything from my front door. Oh, I'm glad you stopped by. I'm gonna, yeah, I want new windows.
The other day.
I can go online, that's the thing, like, just go online now.
It was my brother at my house and
The state.
I went to open the door and then I was like, oh, God. The guy was like.
Hey, no.
Dude, Girl Scout cookies, the local football team, they have that card that I always get.
They're welcome at my house too.
Yeah, well, nonprofits, religious and, political stuff is protected by the First Amendment, so, they can do what they wanna do.
Well, they can't, but I should also close my.
Yes, they can file the notice listening, but we can't regulate,
Regulate hours.
what's that?
You can regulate hours.
Correct.
Hours.
So are we thinking like
Hour a day,
9 to 6,
about
9 to 5?
about 9 to 12.
Well, that we
Nine to
probably
nine
can't.
15.
After 5 is what business hour gives at least an
It has to be
hour.
reasonable,
Home,
time.
right?
It has to be reasonable time, place, manner.
Yeah, I would say
Don't bother me
6 or 7 p.m.
Like 9 to 7 or something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cause I mean, as much as they clearly annoy all of us,
Mhm.
there are citizens who they might not annoy.
Apparently it works somehow,
It
somewhere
does.
along the
You
way
see all the
that
solar panels?
they wouldn't be doing it if the
Yeah.
company wasn't making money somewhere. Someone's
Also,
buying it.
I want to be clear, I'm sure there are door-to-door salespeople out there who are not rude and terrible. I'm sure there's good people out there. I'm just saying the experience the city's had recently has been poor. And so I don't want to like,
Significantly, I will say, unfortunately, and I hate them, but
Yeah.
we got so many phone calls and emails about this, and this year was like the breaking point where like it became an
Trying to
issue.
do something.
yeah, I think we need permit fees, reasonable time, place and manner restrictions as we're allowed to make. Obviously, we need to make sure we keep exemptions in for religious, political, all that, for at least for the fee.
Yeah.
Right, but not for the hours. I think the hours should be across the board.
All right, I guess
An exemption for Girl Scouts too. I'm just kidding.
well, they fall under that nonprofit banner, so.
I don't know if Girl Scouts go door to door.
They don't.
Yeah, now they just send you the app and you just order 15 of them and you're good.
Safeway or they-
Because it's the other way around. The Girl Scouts don't trust you when you open. the
Yeah.
door. They're the one that opens the door.
They've got a smart names. They sit out front of the dispensaries.
All right, department report. Seriously? I feel like we've really covered code enforcement, but is there anything?
No, just in the monthly reports, you will see that we've added the community development section finally after we started getting some reporting out with the new system and Nicole kind of being in place. You'll kind of see a rolling total of us year to date in the community development section. We're working on Public Works, getting on board with GoGov, on getting them all case manage me, so we can kind of have some more diagrams and charts for you, so we can start quantifying some of their work visually. And I mean, outside of that, we're almost ready to go with be complete with the meters. So we can start talking billing and other things later on. Greg and the team feel pretty confident we'll have that done by the end of the year.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah, and just a couple of things for me. So last September, we had a discussion about the fire department. And I was asked last year, maybe we need to do this just a yearly update. Is that still something we want on for next month where we talk about fire department? Myself and Councilor Burrows have some things to talk about with the fire board. That may come back to the board, come back to council later on, but I think that's something him and I are working on as his liaison for the fire. But do we need a totality discussion next month on anything on fire? I know last year it kind of.
Been going well.
I don't have any concerns.
Okay.
I'd rather bring stuff up after we talk to the chief.
Okay,
So.
So just to jump back in.
okay. We had a great national night out. Thank you, Kennedy, for doing that. We did it at Commons this year. Thank you, Councilor Burrows. I know you were there for a little bit. Mayor Malcolm hung out for a little bit. I think we probably had about 90 people or so. Yeah, we had the OSP bomb truck and we had the robot and everybody seemed to enjoy it. I think you're gonna probably continue doing it at Commons every year.
Probably.
Yeah, so it seemed to be a lot more flowy than last year, because last year we did the survey launch and was at the fire station, so it was a little bit more mechanical. This year was a lot more flowy and we had more people there. It seemed like to just come hang out and outside. I mean, it was great until the fire department and deputies had to leave because of that Amity brush fire. But I think it was a great event. So thank you, Kennedy, for pulling that off. It was fantastic. So, outside of that,
You were dragged, they took the keys out of the fire engine, out of Big Blue. I mean, the keys aren't in there? Bummer.
oh, and just, everything at the community center is complete, done. We got new ramps. We got new back ramps, the window shades. So your office, everything is all set, ready to go. So, I have a key and, Mayor Malcolmson have a key. If you all need to use the office, you can just reach out to one of us. If you have a community meeting, we can make that schedule for you.
Perfect. Floors still need to be buffed.
Yeah, we're working on buffing the floors, but outside of that, the community center.
All right. In terms of counselor's report, I don't have any reports. Counselor Gilvin?
No, I mean, this isn't as much of a report as a summation. Everybody knows here I've been a little bit critical of the COG lately, and what I heard today was a business structure that got caught off guard with no cash reserves, an apology for doing business in a way that's unprofessional, that you lose clients, but they're not going to fix it. I personally don't hire companies like that to service my own personal life or my business life, and it just continues my want to seek alternative service providers. That's all I have.
Okay. Counselor Carswell?
No, thank you.
Counselor Burrows?
I don't really have anything, but continue on the COG. The only thing that's a positive to me for the rest of this year that we've got going on is that it's the menu. We will buy what we want from them, and then next year put that on in your mind. Next year we'll make the decision for what do we do with continuing on.
A la carte servicing.
Yes, a la carte.
Counselor Kithill? Nope. Counselor, oh, you said no?
No.
Okay. Counselor Mackey?
No.
All right. Mayor's not here, so we'll save the report.
Yeah, the report in the packet for you all.
We do have an executive session. Brandon, do we need to move to end the council first, or do we move straight?
Well, the script will cover over that.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay. Okay, so now the council will now hold a confidential executive session under ORS 192.6602I to review and evaluate the employment related performance of the chief executive officers. The only persons allowed in the executive session are the city council, city staff, and legitimate news media and others so designated by the council. Attendees of the executive session are advised not to report on or discuss in public the matters discussed in this executive session. This executive session is expected to last about 30 minutes, at which point the council will reconvene and continue the public portion of tonight's agenda. All persons not involved in the executive session will be required to vacate the council chambers until the council reconvenes the public meeting. Are there any objections from the council regarding my action to close the public portion of tonight's meeting, convene into executive session? Close the public portion and we move into executive session.
Sweet. She's gonna make sure
Okay,
Nobody even knows.
are we back on?
Yeah, you can, Joseph, can you hear us?
There's Joe.
All right, so we've just come out of the executive session and we are back in the normal meeting. Following the executive session, is there any discussions we would like to have? Yes, well, I mean, so we had the executive session regarding the city council manager. And so now that we're back in the meeting, we can have discussions.
So I think we support a raise and a bonus based off of the evaluation done by everybody.
And so do somebody have a
Motion.
recommendation?
Can I present a motion then?
Yeah.
I'm going to move to give the city administrator a 4% merit bonus based on his evaluations, in addition to a $2,500 one-time bonus. And to authorize the mayor and or council president to execute whatever necessary documentation to implement those.
I'll second.
Do we have any, like to have any discussions on?
Just one thing, that when you were making your motion, you said a 4% bonus,
4% raise, I'm sorry, merit raise.
merit raise.
Yeah,
Okay.
and a $2,500 one-time bonus.
Okay. Just want to make sure that's clear.
Sure. Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that.
All in favor of this motion?
Aye.
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 Passes.
Thank you all for letting me
Wait,
continue to work for
did
you.
Joe vote?
Yes, he did.
Nodding.
Brandon, we greatly appreciate all the work
Very
you've
much.
done. Your evaluation was very impressive and it speaks volumes to your character, your work ethic, everything. So, continue looking forward to next year, working with you. We continue to have the city built.
And
Yep.
All right, guys, it's 9:10. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Have a good night.